there, and welcome to the Podcast Editors Mastermind, the show where we focus on the business side of podcasting. We're actually kicking off a bit of a new series tonight where we want to focus on finding clients, because that's actually one of the things that we most commonly hear is, how do I get my first client, or how do I get my next client? So we want to focus on you in our community as far as like how you found your clients. And we have a guest tonight to share her story. Before we get into that, I'm Brian Itzminger. You can find me at toptieraudio.com, and above me to that side is
I'm well,
good luck.
let me think about who I am for a second, because I dropped the Eric. So I'm going to introduce myself in a new way. I'm Carrie Caulfield, and you can find me at carrie.land or on Instagram under my new Instagram handle, the Carrie Caulfield. Isn't that fun?
That's great. Yeah, it's your name. I can probably remember it now.
Yeah.
And our guest tonight is Cristina Lumague. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. I've been practicing. So our guest tonight is Cristina, and this is great. She's a freelance podcast editor. She loves podcasts. But the thing that was really interesting to me is that she was able to take her interest in spooky stories and history and the focus that goes with that and turn that into her career. So Cristina, welcome.
Yes. Hi. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's fun to have you. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to
Carrie.
ask, do you want to give a shout out to her podcast? Because,
Yes.
spooky, history person here. So I would, love
Yeah. So
to know.
Cristina, what is your podcast?
So I have problems, and I have three. So one is Spooky Tales. That's the spooky one. It's all about Latin American spooky stories, haunted places, occasionally to crime, mostly legends and haunted places. And then the history one is called Historias Unknown, and that's the Latin American history one, or Latin history in the United States. And then my other one is a Mexican soap opera rewatch show that is very small and takes 6 months break sometimes. So.
Sounds familiar.
Kind of sounds like our show with the breaks there sometimes. Yeah. So Cristina, we're here to hear about the story of your first client. We know that a lot of the people that listen to the show, they're trying to find their first client. So we want to focus on that. And I'm wondering, I don't even want to frame this up. Tell us the story of your first client. How did you find him? How did you connect? What was it like?
Wait. Can we back up? Can we just ask one preliminary question that I am curious about?
Okay.
Well, actually, maybe I have two. Okay, bear with us, guys, because we're still developing this series. And we're kind of doing it right now live in front of you. So Cristina, what was your introduction into podcasts? What was that moment like?
I think my twin started listening to them first at some point. I don't even know they existed in 2017. And then in 2018, I was pregnant with my first child, and I was like, how do I learn more info? I don't want to read books. And then I found some I don't even remember the name of it. I think it was the birthing hour, maybe. The name escapes me, but I found that podcast and then a couple more parenting ones, and then I was over learning about parenting once my baby came out, and then I was like, I need fun podcasts now. And then that's when my twin told me all about listen to these true crime ones, and I was like, oh, perfect. And then that's when it started. Then my queue was I'm gonna add these 50 podcasts to my queue now, and yeah.
Yeah. So what about that transition then from a listener to professional?
Oh yeah. I don't know how the idea got in my head that I wanted to start one. I cannot remember. I think I was looking for podcasts about Latin American haunted places, because I got to the point where I started listening to a bunch of the same stories here, basically in the US. And I was like, what about all the places that I know about? And I found one and finished it all. And then there was no other podcast that focused on Latin American stories. And so then I was like, you know what? I need to start it. That's it. And that was my first one. And then we did I think it was a Women's History Month that we did only women history topics. And then I was like, you know what? Now I need a history podcast. And then the other one, I just love rewatching things and then talking about them. And I had no one to do that with except my twins. So we're like, let's start a podcast. And that's how all three of them happened in 2020.
Okay,
Okay.
well, can I just say that recap podcasts are one of the funnest podcasts to edit? Because, like, especially if you're editing for content, because I feel like you do actually, as an editor, if even if you're not the host, you still have to rewatch, and I love that because you're paid to watch TV. That's cool.
That is fun. Yeah.
Okay, Brian, now you can go.
Now I was going to ask you what should I ask next?
Um, okay, so what was that decision to then become a podcast editor? I mean, obviously, were you editing your own podcast? Is that
Yes, yeah. I learned to edit my own, like, and the most basic editing. I didn't even know about like compression or anything in the first like year and a half maybe. And then um I don't know why I was randomly watching, I think it was YouTube videos, and then I was like, "Oh, that's a compressor." Oh, and then I just started watching a bunch more, and I started to learn to use like edit my own podcast way better. And I think it was probably the end of 2022. I was like, or no, maybe mid 2022. I was like, do people do this for, I mean, someone has to work editing these. Like people aren't, not everyone is just editing their own podcast. Like surely it's a job. And I want to say it was like in a Facebook group somewhere, someone was like, and this should have been like a red flag, but it wasn't to me at the time because it was so impulsive. I was just like, can this be a job? And then this Facebook post on a random podcast Facebook group, someone was like, can someone edit a podcast? My editor's gone. I can only pay $20 an episode. And I was like,
Oh.
yeah, I could do it. and then it was like the most, to me, it was one of the most like boring topics ever. I mean, to them, it was probably, not, but I should not have said yes or anything. I didn't know anything about editing or like pricing or even like that I cannot edit something I'm not interested in or I will fall asleep while doing it. Like I can't. Uh, so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And it was two hosts that shared like a Blue Yeti mic that was far away from them. And that lasted like, I don't know, 2 months maybe, because then they just stopped doing it. But I tweeted about getting my first client that way, and then someone was like, "Oh, I've been looking for an editor myself." And that podcast, there I still edit for them, and it's so fun. And I consider that my real first client, not the first one, but that's how that happened.
So you said you tweeted, and that's how you
hmm
found the what we're going to call the real first client. Is that
Yes.
so? Like, what did that look like? I mean, you tweeted, but did that start a conversation? How did you go from I sent a tweet to they're now my client?
Yeah, so I think because I had already been hosting 3 of my own podcasts, I sort of was like in the podcasting Twitter community where I knew a lot of hosts and other people that did things in podcasting. So a bunch of people retweeted it. It's probably like one of my I think I just tweeted like, "Oh, I have my first editing client. I think I really would rather like I want to do this for a living." And then that got I don't even know how many retweets and likes. I was surprised. And then people just started commenting like, "Oh, I've been looking for someone," but it was Vulgar Histories who reached out to me, DM'd me, not just like a comment on it, because people will comment, but then like I was like, I don't know, should I reach out? It's weird. I think I don't know, so I didn't message anyone that commented, but she messaged me, and then I was like, oh yeah, I still don't know anything about rates, so at the time my rate was lower, but not 20 an episode like the first one. And yeah, she messaged me, and then I think we like connected after that for a little bit via like a video chat. And then it was pretty fast though. She was I think sent me like a test episode maybe, or I just started. She'd never hired an editor either. I think I might have just started editing for her like almost after the first like couple DMs.
Wow. So I always feel like oh, actually, before we do that, we do have a comment from Facebook user. Two first clients. The first one is the beta, and the second one is the one that counts as a real
yeah.
client.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
That's great.
So wait, can we back up to the beta for a little bit? Because
Sure.
I know it feels like they weren't your real client, but you must have like had some big important learnings about what you didn't want in a client and what you didn't want to do. Can
That
you?
is true. That is true. I think I did learn to not randomly take anything up from a Facebook post and like I'll edit for you. Especially when I think from now what I like to see is like do they upload consistently? Um do they have a normal mic at least? Does each host have a mic? But mostly just like do I like the topic and then are they consistent, I think, is one of the main things that I look at, or are they just, like, doing this super, super, super hobby mode, like, I'm doing this once every 6 months, I'm uploading an episode, and we're sharing this $20 mic, like, that I learned not like, they can't pay an editor.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I actually want to build on that because you headed right into the same kind of thing that I was going to ask Carrie about
Oh,
learnings.
okay.
Because I feel like every client, every new client brings something else to the table and we learn something new when we bring them on. But I also feel like oftentimes that first client, we probably learn the most. For example, my first client, I learned a lot about audio repair. And so and I'm not trying to shape your answer, right? But I'm just wondering, like that first, we'll call it the non-beta client. What was like the biggest thing you learned as you started working with them?
I think, like, important to first talk to someone about their like, before I edit, what can they do to make it sound the best that they can? Mic suggestions, like, placement suggestions. Are you wearing headphones? Make sure your guest has these things if you can. And then after that, I learned about, like, oh, you can use, de-reverb to make it sound a little better, things like that. Cause like my own podcast that I have been editing, I never had that problem where everyone sounds like they're in a tunnel. So I also learned a little bit more about what tools were out there. Cause yeah, before that, just like everything that was stock in like Reaper was fine for me. But yeah, so I got what's it called? Isotope
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
to try and
RX.
help myself a little bit, yeah, after that and really learn how to use that. So and now I use it for everything, even though I'm like, I don't need it. I'm like, oh, I mean, or I thought I didn't need it at the time. It helps a little bit on everything, I think. So I learned what that was. Trying to fix their audio.
Yeah, no kidding. Carrie, did you have anything?
No, that's just how I like first. I mean that whole thing of that idea of you've created your podcast, right? And you control all the variables that you can, actively, and especially because you understand the editing process, you understand that you want it to sound good, and you have learned the things you can do. And it is a mindset shift, I think, to then look at a client and you're thinking you're going to get one thing, right? You have an idea of what a podcast is in your head from the podcast you listen to, which are most likely, if you're an editor, then they sound good, right? Or they sound decent,
Right.
listenable. But when you get that first client, and that was my experience as well, like my podcast, well, I was never satisfied with how my podcast sound, but it sounded decent. My first client, however, it had those problems. That client is where, and Lord knows I started around $20 in episode 2 for him, although I kept him and got the rate up. Um, that learning curve, right? So even though it was only $20 an episode, right? I like to think about the sweat equity, like what I'm getting out of that, right? So I'm getting more than $20. What I'm getting is a quick education
Yes.
on like how to make things work, because
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you've got to work within these deadlines, right? And so there's no like failure is not an option. Well, I mean, I guess it is, but like you either quit or get fired. And so because we care about how things sound, then we start looking for ways to improve. And that's where I think in the beginning that learning is so crucial. That's why I don't get hung up anymore about like how much. I mean, yeah, it's funny to look back and be like $20 an episode, ha ha ha. But I'm not gonna like if that's where you start, that's where you start.
Right.
Get something out of that, right? If they're only giving you $20, if that's where you're starting, if that's where you think you can start, then eke out every bit of learning from that client, whether they're good or bad, as quickly as you can, and then get better, cut them loose, and then move on to, ditch the beta client and move on to the real first client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we think about your client acquisition, the first two clients that you picked up, it seems like it was a combination of being part of some kind of group or network, and then either responding to something or just sending out a random thing and somebody responding to that. How are you finding clients now? Are you finding them? Or are they finding you? What does that look like?
Yeah, they have found me through mostly, yeah, networking again because of Twitter. Like um, I think she's like she did community something for like Squadcast, but now
Is it
they're part of
Ariel?
Descript. Yeah,
Is
Ariel
it Ariel?
yeah, she talked to someone at Podcast Movement, Edwin, who does Scary FM, a bunch of like scary podcasts basically. And he was like, "Man, I've been looking for someone." And he's like, "Oh, I know just the person." That's what she told him, and that was like my newest client. And then another one was another true crime podcaster who just, I don't know, she like knows everyone. And that was my other big client,
Is
and
that
that's how that
Tara
happened.
by any chance?
No, but she
No.
knows them. It's her name is
Okay.
Lainey. She hosts like true crime. She has like two, but
Okay.
yeah, she knows quite a few people too. And so she's like, "Oh, I know someone." And so I think I've just gotten lucky, and also, I mean, thanks to formerly known as Twitter and now like X, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not
Basically
calling
now
it that.
it's
Call it
Twitter,
xylophone.
but
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. But
That
yeah, it's
app.
all been through networking.
So, so I have a specific question about the true crime market, right? Because that's one of the biggest niches in podcasting. What is it like in terms of like the editing community of true crime, like the editors in true crime? Is it something, because a lot of people may think about starting a podcast editing career and they're like, oh, but like there's so many editors now, or like the market's saturated. What would your response be for that in terms of true crime and history and spooky stuff?
I don't know that it's saturated. I know like a lot of the things I listen to up to like even recently, a lot of people were still editing their own stuff, even though they were like years into like having these huge podcasts. Like you'd hear them saying, "Oh, I was up editing this late," and I'm like, "Why are you still editing your own?" So I don't know. I think there's still room, but I mean, just I guess, yeah, finding that the first, because like once you have your first like one or two clients, then I think like things just really, really take off from there. But getting those first two, I don't know. I feel like I got like lucky, even though, and then it feels like I'm like discrediting myself, but
Yeah, I think
it
you
really feels
are. I,
lucky.
I I really do, because I don't think your story is terribly uncommon. Certainly not now. I mean, we have to kind of sit back and look and think that we are like, kind of the first people to really enter this industry in this way. Now that podcasting is being taken seriously and we've kind of grown with it,
Hmm.
there is another generation of podcast editors coming behind us that are may have a different experience, just because the industry becomes more established and our roles become more established, and so that's, I'm curious about that. But I think for like a lot of us, and you came in 2007, like you started podcasting in 2017, 2022 is when you started your career as a podcast editor, and
Hmm.
Ryan and I have maybe come a little bit earlier than that. But I feel like the entrance is very similar.
Yeah, I would say actually your entrance is much more graceful than mine was. Your first client was a paying client, so there's that, right? My first client was not. Now, ultimately, he turned into a paying client, but he wasn't at first, right? And I picked that up just because I wanted to be involved in his show. My first paying client was like a year and a half later, right? So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
don't feel bad about the way you got in. I'm not a fan of telling people to go get on a platform like Fiverr or Upwork because I feel like those really squeeze the market.
I
But I
tried
also don't,
Upwork.
yeah, but I also
Yeah.
don't want to shame somebody who got
That's
in
where
for
I
free
started.
because, yeah, I
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
by editing my own show very poorly. I
Yeah.
upskilled.
I think feel like we all do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we learn more as we do more and are
Yeah.
exposed to more. So I think that's just natural too.
Yeah. And, the other thing I would say is I'm almost 10 years into this, not as a professional, but almost 10 years into podcasting. You can't compare where I was in 2017 with where were in 2017. It's just not right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely no shame there. Although I am wondering if you could go back and do one of those clients differently, what would you do differently with what you know now?
Um, I think I didn't count my own experience that I had been editing my own podcast, including like very like amateurly, but video and like TikToks. I didn't take that experience into account, but it had been 3 years and I did know, a decent amount. So I was like, oh, I have no experience. I have to take the lowest. And I would, if someone had offered like what's it called when you do something for like a review that has a name,
Oh,
like a
yeah.
I can't think of it
testimonial.
either. Yeah. Testimonial.
Yeah,
Like,
if I would have done it for free, like that
Exposure.
was my, exposure. I would have done that at the time, like back then, because I was like, I don't know how, I have no experience. Basically, is what I thought. I'm like, how am I gonna get my foot in the door? But it was already there, and I was not thinking that I was already in really. So I think I would have counted my own experience of 3 years when I was like looking at clients and like, oh, what should I price this? Even my second client was like lower pricing. And then now we've gone up with, the time. And like, I'm like, oh, I'm, doing this now. And she's fine with it. And it was like, again, I felt lucky. But now my rates are like, I feel like normal and fair. But I feel like I probably should have learned more about, I think there's this, I think Jesse McCoon is his name, but he always is
Mhm.
posting this like freelance calculator that like, oh, use this calculator to figure out what your pricing is. Like, I'm like, I should have looked at all that stuff before saying I want to do this for a living. Oh, $20, I'll take it. And again, I would have done it for free. Like, I feel like I should have taken time to like learn the business side of it and take my own experience into like account.
I think that's really important to really assess your skills that you have. Like you're on like honestly assess them. And all you need to be, my client goalie always says, all you have lessons from a quitter, all you need to be is one step ahead of the person you're helping, and they will pay you for it, right? Because you're saving them time and energy, and doing something that they can't do as well. So, but I want to go back to that tweet because I had a thought that there may be a lot of people who are, should I, shouldn't I? They're on the fence. They haven't taken that first step, and sometimes that first step feels really scary and really risky. And I know that it sounds to me like that tweet was in passing, but or was it like an intentional thing? Like, was it a step you intended to take, or it was just like offhand?
No. I just also have a problem with Twitter. It's gotten better since Elon Musk took over. I've used it less, but yeah, I used to be on there all the time, and so I'm like, I'm gonna tweet about this thing because I tweet about everything,
Right.
and
That like stream of
and so
consciousness tweeting. Yeah.
yeah,
Why am I
yeah.
not following you?
But that's what that tweet was. It was just like, I'm gonna tweet this because it happened, and I tweet everything that happens. Like,
Okay. And then so you got what they DM'd you.
mhm.
And I mean, what was that? Did you have like that fear or that um was there any hesitation? What were your feelings around that before you replied?
No, I was really excited and I was like, "Oh my god, a message. Let me look." And then I was like, "Oh my god, it's Vulgar History. I love this podcast." And so yeah, there was no hesitation. I was like, "Yeah, let's do this and send me your episode like now. I'll do this right now." And yeah. But I also
Okay.
like I don't think about like ahead or anything. This is why all of
Oh
this like
yeah.
even
I can relate to that.
Yes.
It may look like you're fearless, but you're really just not thinking things through
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
not overthinking them, which
Yes.
is a nice, trait to have. But so when you got into like when they sent you that test episode, right? Because there's the other like I'm thinking about this in terms of inflection points. Like you have to get over these mental hurdles. Well, at least I do. I don't know if anybody else can really. I'm just asking for a friend. Um, so when they sent you that test episode, because I've done plenty of test episodes, and every time I get a new big project, I have an existential crisis, end up laying on the floor saying I can't do this, and crying, ugly crying. Um, so and I realize that's a little bit extreme, but like when they sent you that test episode and you were editing it, did that little like kind of overthinky person in your head, if you have one, um start to like, were you worried, or what did that excitement just take over, the
Uh,
excitement skill?
I think that yeah, I think the excitement really just took over. I think after I sent it, and then it was like a couple of days before she got back to me. During that time, then I was like, "Oh my god, was that actually
Mm.
terrible?" And I just like my ears don't work, and I thought it was really good, and it's actually really bad. So during those 2 days, then I was like dying inside. But while I was doing it, I was like, "Oh, this is so fun. I hope this works out." So yeah.
Okay, because I'm thinking back to like some of the test episodes I've had, and I had that like that fear like during the edit, like they're gonna hate this. It doesn't sound good. Yeah, like I can't trust my ears, kind of thing. And then I also have that kind of vulnerability hangover, I like to call it, as after I send the episode. But so I was just curious, like I think these feelings, that feeling of somebody judging your work, of course, is, you know, hard, right? But
Yeah.
it's what we do all the time. So
Well, and I think there's another layer of it, right? Because it's not just that they're judging your work, but if it's somebody that's been in editing their show for a while, there's
oh yeah.
also the fear that even though you're really happy with what you did, it may not be what they were hoping for, right? And that client management thing it's real, right? There's an element of that. And transparently, I don't know how to overcome that other than to find people that like the way I do stuff. I've proven myself very bad at learning other people's preferences. What I've found is that I'm really good at delivering what I'm good at, and if people like that, then they're probably the ones that want to work with me.
Well, that's the case for an ideal client, right?
Yeah, and I know it sounds ridiculous and selfish, but that's what I've found is if their expectations are significantly different, like I don't know, they want me to leave all the ums in. I mean, I can do that, but then at that point, like, what are you paying me for? A little bit of audio repair and some mix and master, okay, but
There are
those are not my
people.
dream clients either.
Really? I have to say that when I have Alejandro edit some shows for me that are very light touch, like he struggles with that. So
Yeah,
I would
well,
too. Yeah.
there's a part of me, and it's probably just part of my personality, right? It's hard for me to read a document and not be correcting things as I go in my head. And the same thing happens when I'm listening to audio. I remember going to a funeral. I know, great example. Going to a funeral, and one of the people that was talking, like every other word was a lip smack and an and about 3 minutes in, I could start seeing the waveforms in my head, and I was in my DAW. And I know this is ridiculous because I'm at a funeral, but it's where I was. Like, I can't not do that. And so it becomes really hard to go through an episode, especially if they still want to listen through and not fix the stuff. I mean, it's just like, how can you call this done? This is not right. We left trash on the couch and invited people over to sit on it. Like, why would we do that?
Yeah.
Which is, I guess what I
Yeah.
would talk to a therapist about if I had one.
I think editors all have a little bit of that. Like we are ruined for everything else, like TV, movies. I mean, I watched the Barbie movie, and I'm like, oh my gosh, who is it? Like, we could have a whole episode on the Barbie movie sound design.
I have to
Um,
watch it. I'll keep an eye out for that when I watch
yeah,
it.
I mean, it could have been the theaters like setup of their
Mhm.
speakers, but I was like, is that sound from this movie? At times.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, that's You know what? I love the Barbie movie. Let's not anger the
The Barbie
movie
people.
gods. Yeah,
Barbie.
I don't know. Disney controls everything. They've got all the money, and they're starting to podcast now, or kids podcast now. So anyway, all right, Brian, you go.
Yeah, I mean, the only other question I had is really just for those editors that are listening to this or watching it and going, okay, that's cool. What can I learn from this? So, like, if you were sitting down with a new editor and you told them a little bit about your experience, what's something that you would want them to take away and apply as they're starting to approach clients or clients are starting to find them?
I would say, yeah, if you've had your own podcast and you've been editing, I'll count that as experience, and don't be scared to get yourself out there. Like, I don't know, tweet the thing and reply to the message.
I love that. Tell the world what you want them to do, right? I want you to
Yeah,
give
yeah,
me money to edit a podcast I'm interested in,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
What else is better?
Seriously, yeah.
So the part of the reason I asked this is because the place my mind goes is like funnels and sequences and all that stuff. And so like I want to ask this question because what I heard from you was just connect with people and don't forget that the work that you've done is good. Right?
Yeah, that's
That's
like
like
a way
the magic hat.
better sentence that sounds nicer, but yeah, that is exactly.
Yeah. So my question is, and you're still, you're still kind of, in the beginning of your career, right? Um, and so what, like, how much like infrastructure do you have? I mean, are you using automation? Are you any kind of like special tool in terms of like was there something along this journey so far, a tool to help with the business side of podcast editing that like you could not imagine living without?
Well, I finally got myself something other than PayPal to send invoices, so that's been
Ooh.
really nice. I forgot the name of it. I think I tried out Honey something, and then like FreshBooks is the other one. So one of those instead of PayPal to keep track of things has been nice for like the business side. And then I don't know, tools editing wise, I feel like everyone should have. If you don't have Isotope, then I don't know what is going on.
It just make your life easier.
Yeah,
That's,
no kidding.
I mean,
Yes.
Isotope, if you would like to sponsor us, please reach out at,
Why haven't they?
yeah,
Yeah.
at podcasteditorsmastermind.com. Probably because we just didn't ask.
Well, and they're probably too busy being acquired. They
They
were
still have a
acquired by
marketing department.
Novation.
Oh, I
Mm,
need to read the news.
Yeah, it's fine.
so
So quick hello from Patrick. Patrick, we're glad that you could join us. So Carrie, you asked Christina about what's her must-have tool. What's yours?
mm, quite frankly, I could not run I could not actually do the editing work without Google Drive.
Mm.
I do have
Uh,
that too.
and well, not the editing, the administration without Google Drive, and the editing without, and I hate to say this because they are not my favorite company,
Pro Tools?
Descript.
Oh,
Oh, I do. I use them. I just
Yeah.
started doing story editing a little bit, and then so I use that to move stories around
Yes.
before doing
And
anything sound. I don't do like mixing, mastering in it or like sound
no.
design, but story editing, I don't know what's better than it. Like, because you can move things around in chunks by reading it. Like, I don't. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I have some major complaints about that, but and I am waiting for somebody to come and blow them out of the water.
anybody.
Yeah, anybody.
Anybody.
But for now,
And I am open. If you are an AI company, I will look at your Descript competitor. I will look at I will spend time with your software. I swear. I have time now. Where I didn't before. But yeah, those two tools for sure. And then and specifically, so there's one Google tool I use all the time, and that is Google Keep.
Mm.
right? It is a note-taking app. You can organize things. I use it. I can write up emails just on my phone easily, like, or like marketing things. So, um, yeah, that's what are yours, Brian?
Well, before we do mine, Patrick says that he has a relationship with Google Drive.
Don't we all?
So
Yeah, I mean, we're poly with Google
yeah,
Drive,
I'm
right?
a poly Dropbox kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I'll take most of what you guys have suggested already. I don't use Descript anymore. I said goodbye when Hindenburg announced transcriptions, even though they
So
totally blew up that launch and it never delivered. If you're looking for something that does transcriptions, you might check into the pro version of DaVinci Resolve. I believe that they have a text editor built into that, but I haven't confirmed that because I'm using the free version. Software that I couldn't live without, other than what we've talked about, I use Wave Accounting for invoicing and accounting, and it's free. So I really like the price of free. And
mm.
then for keeping track of my workload, I'm a ClickUp fiend. Every episode, every project, everything goes in ClickUp, which is like Trello and Asana got together and made something better than themselves. And that's what I use for everything. So every morning, every night, I just log in. I've got basically just like a variation of a Gantt chart that says these are the things you have and this is when they're due. There's obviously a little bit of administration like to keep up with stuff, but then I'm able to use I was using Zapier, but I use Pabbly now to connect to the clients that have Trello to bring over the cards when they drop them in to be edited so that I can get some of that administrative overhead out. But that's what I use so that I can keep track of stuff. I've got a little bit lower workload than I did this time last year, but it's too much for my head. I can't keep it in.
What's that called? I need something like that because I'm a mess.
ClickUp.
ClickUp.
It's
Okay.
not free. I think they have a free option, but I've been using the paid version because it also has time
Okay.
tracking. So every episode,
Oh.
I go in and I track how much time did I spend on audio repair, how much did I spend on mixing and editing, and how much time on, I'll call it mastering. I know that's not fair. And then for the ones where I do management, then what did I spend on additional services? That way, when I need to take a look at pricing and stuff, I have an idea of how long episodes are taking me. And all of that ultimately I ended
I
up
love that.
dumping into a Google sheet so I can say, okay, these episodes showed up with this much raw audio. They took this long to process. This was the revenue. Am I still at a reasonable rate? And yeah, oh, you got it, Carrie. Good deal.
Yep,
Patrick
I
asked
got
if,
it.
oh, but you actually commented on YouTube and he's commenting on Facebook.
Oh,
So,
I
so
don't
that's fine.
understand.
So Patrick wanted to know the tool for simple invoicing. I use Wave Accounting.
It's
That's
waveapps.com.
yeah. Christina, I think you said was it HoneyBook that you said you were using?
FreshBooks because they had
FreshBooks.
like a $3 for 3 months, but now I might switch to Wave myself
Okay.
because the normal price for FreshBooks I think is like $12 a month.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
anytime you can cut a subscription, yay.
I
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
I believe that you can send invoices directly from Stripe. I know you can from PayPal, and
Oh.
I believe that the Novo Bank, which is what I use for most of my online banking for all my incoming cash, I believe they also do invoicing there. So maybe check and see if you can do it from your bank if you need to as well. Some of the online banks offer that. I have thought about switching over, but I really like just doing all of the invoicing directly from Wave apps because then when the money shows up, it just gets applied to the invoice and it gets pulled off, and then I don't have to wonder is that still outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I don't have that many clients to
Yeah, you're in a bit of a different situation
Yeah,
than
I
you were 2
am. I
years ago,
am.
right?
Yes, a much different situation. And so I get a lot of direct deposit. Um, and then I just use PayPal or whatever because it's so few clients that it's not worth doing. I mean, I could do Stripe as well, but you know, and I don't know. It depends on the fees. I think PayPal is still a little bit lower or not. I don't know because they keep changing, and I just
Yeah.
haven't I just haven't sat down and done it.
I
So, which
I
is
just figure 50 cents and 30% for everything. It's probably not exactly right, but it gets you close enough on all the platforms.
yeah,
It's not
yeah.
exactly right, but at this point I'm like if I'm billing $250, $500, whatever the amount is, and it's a difference of 1/4% and 5 cents on the swipe, I'm like, they're the same. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it's the time cost of learning something new,
Yeah.
right? It's I don't wanna do that right now. So, um, yeah, so I had another question and I lost it. So,
Uh-oh.
I know. Imagine that. Oh,
And
yeah, direct deposit for
yeah.
Patrick as well. Yay. And
Yeah. So
congratulations. Wait a second. Can we back up? Congratulations, Patrick, on your new first gig. And I believe this is his first year as a full-time podcast
yeah.
editor, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
Oh,
yay.
amazing. Yeah, I'm about to put in my 2 weeks at my part-time job.
Nice.
And go
Oh.
full-time editing, so I'm very excited.
Oh,
Awesome.
wait, let's back up. Let's talk about that for a second. That's a big decision, right?
Oh, yeah, I
So
finally have way too much editing work that pays good, and I cannot do both things anymore.
awesome. So, when you started this, obviously your kind of dream was to make this into a career because you loved it. Um, did you at some point like make the conscious decision that you were going to quit your job? Well, I know you made the conscious decision, but was that always like the plan, or were you like, I'm going to hold on to this just in case? What was that thought process like?
Yeah, I think I always, because like, I work as a medical assistant in healthcare, and after all the clinics opened back up after the first, pandemic where everything was closed, and
Hmm.
we came back to the clinics, and it has been a mess. I feel like people are meaner, and I'm like, I'm so over this. I need something else that I don't want to wake up in the morning. Obviously, it's like so it feels like a privilege to be able to wake up and not hate your job. But I was like, I have this other skill. If I can make this into a job and that I actually like really, really like, and people aren't yelling at me about medication refills. So it was always the goal from the minute I got like the first $20 client. I was like, one day I'm not gonna be doing this other job and I'm just gonna be editing full time. And yeah, my when I got my most recent gig, then I was like, this is probably enough now. Like I don't need the other job anymore. I don't need it.
Cool. Cool.
That's great. Yeah. And Patrick says, go you, Christina. So
Thank you.
cheers from the comments as well. Carrie, did you have some more on that?
I did. Well, I had I think I thought of my question. Okay, so maybe it's a two-part question. We'll see how it develops. Uh, so what is your like what does the future of your business look like now? I mean, is it going to be something where are you always going to be in the trenches doing the work? Are you going to be hands-on with your clients? Or are you going to do something where like you have a team of people? Like what have you thought about those kinds of things? Or what, are you
I
going to be
have
boutique
not. Yeah.
volume? Yeah, okay.
I think I would rather be like hands-on myself and not have like so many clients where I need to start offloading things, because then I would start losing track of everything. And then like I feel like what I think I'm like at 3, 4 right now, and that's like enough for me to it's not too much for me, myself, and I can keep track of it. And then yeah, because when I think once you start adding more things into the mix, and there's more to keep track of, which I'm not
Mhm.
good
Well,
at.
that's what the like ClickUp for, right? So I
Yeah,
hope
true.
Brian stays super organized, and thank goodness he does, or this show would not exist. But I know for me, I got to the point where I was just like, I am sick of like all the and I love automation really, but like it just like too much pressure. And I was like, I just want to work with fewer people and like get paid more.
Yeah.
Right. I made that. I was like, so I'm not gonna do volume. I'm gonna be more boutique and bespoke. Right. And I'm not gonna so I don't have I have starting at prices. Well, I don't even have prices on my website yet. Um, but I have like a range, right? Depending on the kind of work and how much of like literally Brittany Felix's pain in the ass fee. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. so, um, so Brian, I'm curious about you now because I don't think that I have asked you that or we've even discussed that in a while. Like, you are obviously doing a side hustle, but what's
Yeah.
the long term here?
Yeah, I mean, the long term has always been to build it up. This year has been several steps back. I've had a couple of shows stop production. One show that was subcontracted to me, they moved on from the production company to a different production company. So it's actually been a bit of a slowing. However, it also lined up pretty well with when we came back from vacation. I got like 4 days of enough sleep in a row, and I have yet to recover from that. So it's actually been kind of a good thing. I think I'm down right now to like 5 or 6 shows.
Oh wow. Okay.
So, you know, it's not good for the bottom line necessarily.
No.
But I'm also talking to a couple of former clients. I've got one that's likely to come back, and we're talking about doing it differently. So coming in and having me have a larger role within his show than I had before. We'll see how that shakes out. It's all for me to do that also requires a bit of a change in the business model because I know what his budget is. In order to hit his budget, I have to change the business model a little bit and start looking for employees rather than contractors that are specialists for some of the stuff that I don't do. And so that's a bit of a business model change for me. So I'm still kind of working through that and waiting on confirmation from him on like, did we get the scope of work right? Because if we got the scope of work wrong, or if there are variables that I don't know about, I need to know that so I can price for those, because this is one of those where it's not that I'm pricing it to where there's not a margin, but there's not a ton of wiggle room if some of these assumptions are wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. Totally. You don't want to lose money. I mean,
No.
that's what it sounds like. If I don't get this right, I'm going to lose money. So
Yeah, I mean, potentially, or I'm going to work a lot for
Yeah, that's
either I'll have to take on stuff that should be carried by somebody else, right? Which increases my
Right.
workload. So
Right,
some of
which
the things that I'm
reduces
not
your
that
amount
great
of
at,
money.
I can do them. I mean, I'm competent, just not great. So
Right. And you probably don't want to.
no, I don't.
Yeah.
But it's also, you know, part of it's he's very much has a very strong marketing background and mindset, but he's very much into systems. So our minds kind of work similarly, although I'm not a marketer. So there's a certain value in being able to be involved in his show from a systems and process standpoint, as well as sort of the money and the content. But I don't want to go too far down that road. It's just one
No.
of those conversations we're having. And, you know, it's a little bit scary to go to start saying, hey, I might start bringing on part-time employees where I have to file taxes and all that stuff, as compared to bringing on contractors where transparently, if they're really good at what they're doing, there's not enough margin in his budget for me to pay them what they need to get paid, right? Because there's a reason they were able to build their own business.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of give and take. We'll see how that shakes out. And also, I mean, you know, the day job is doing pretty well. And so those golden handcuffs get a little heavier every year.
Oh, they keep making you want to stay. Well, cool. Brian, we are going to have to get into all of that on a different episode when you've kind of got everything
It might be
in a
minute.
groove. No, that's fine. Just like stay tuned, guys.
We do need to
yeah.
get back to a Patrick question.
Yes.
He wants to know, Christina, what camera you're using.
Oh man, this is some. I don't even remember. It's. I think honestly, it's just my light makes it look a little better because it's just a. I don't remember. I'm so bad at remembering things. So I got it at Costco like 5 years ago, and it said Pro on the box.
It said
Oh, then
pro.
it probably is.
Normally,
Yeah.
I use my phone and then do the like a virtual camera through OBS, and that looks tons better. Like I recommend anyone if you're recording and you want like decent quality, use your phone and OBS. But that's not what I'm doing. I don't know what this
I'm
webcam
gonna
is.
need somebody to show me how to do that. So
Oh
if
yeah.
if you want to like, do a little demo or
I'll put
if you
together a little video. Yeah.
yeah, would love that. Would love that. And I'm sure like lots of our listeners would too. So we will if you do that, we will share it with this episode, throw it in the group and all the places and up on our YouTube channel. Um, you know,
Yeah, it
because
sounds confusing at first, but once you do it the first time, it's pretty
yeah.
easy. You need this app called Droid. You need that on your computer, and then you just turn it on. But it looks confusing.
Just, just keep in mind that there are people in the audience like me that have never successfully used OBS. So
Oh, true,
Yeah,
true.
just
yeah.
remember
I
there are
have
some
a
people that
OBS
are
looks
dumb.
scary too when you
it
first
and
open it. You're like, oh, well, what is all
Yeah,
this?
it's like Windows
yeah.
3.1.
Yeah, and then every time I get used to it, like then I don't use it for a while and then I come back to it and it's completely different.
Hmm.
Or it feels completely different.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anything else,
Okay.
Carrie?
I I told Brian when we started the show that I did not want to host because I was like discombobulated and I wasn't like back into the flow completely, but I guess it's not that hard.
It's like
I
riding a
guess
bike.
yeah, well, I just naturally have a lot of questions. Like, this person's gonna share things with me, so I'm gonna like find all the things. Um, so what is your yeah, I guess I do have something. So what is your big like for me there's usually a big overall learning in whatever season of life I'm in. Do you have a sense of what that is like between, maybe that first 6 months and now like what did you carry in to now with you from your past experiences?
Ooh, I don't know. I guess part of me is like always like super curious, and so I always look up like new things to use so that then I can like recommend to people what like, oh, like the droid cam thing, use this and your video is gonna look way better. And then they're like, oh my god, you're so smart and you're a genius, thank you so much, we do look better. Uh, so just I guess keeping up with things, and then learning video editing is another. I really ramped that up for my newest or my second newest client because they do video, and so I had to learn how to, I guess, edit audio in DaVinci Resolve
Mhm.
because I was using Reaper, and so that was at first I was accidentally exporting the audio wrong. I was forgetting to change my my sample rate, like little things like that. So I think I really just had to, yeah, like learning new. I guess never not stop learning, or whatever Michael Scott said in one of his episode where he said it all weird
I'm
and
gonna
long. But
find that quote. Oh my god. I'm gonna write it down on my other favorite tool, which is now transparent post-it notes. Like,
oh,
look at
I've
that. You
tried
can
post-it notes, but I lose them.
yeah,
But I
I
like
just love
that.
them. Yeah, I use them for everything now. I
Oh yeah, just
storyboard
keep learning,
everything.
really.
Yeah, I love that. Just and I love that you said be curious too, because I think that's super important. But what is your favorite then like educational resource do you have? Like I love like transom.org. Do you
Oh
have
yeah, I have used that. I love YouTube. That's actually where I first found um Reaper for podcasting, and Daniel, I forget his last name because I can never say it right, but
is
he's
it
on.
Abendroth.
Abendroth? Yeah, he's our
Yes.
Daniel. My
I
Daniel?
yes,
Are you
yeah,
talking about
yeah.
my Daniel?
I found his YouTube channel. That's how I learned most of what I when I switched from Audacity to Reaper. I found his YouTube channel, and it was like honestly the best, like if you want to learn Reaper for podcasting. And what a genius name, because if you look up like Reaper for podcasting, that's the first thing that comes up. So that YouTube has been, yeah, like
Yeah.
that was like school for me basically.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Did you hear that, Daniel? Did you hear that?
I hope.
Okay. What
He
have I
better
been
listen.
saying
It's his
this
show.
whole time? Yeah, this whole time I've been telling him you're good at this. Um, you're
Yeah,
good
it
at
was so
Reaper.
helpful.
Like
It's
you're
so helpful.
yeah, his the way he explains is really, it's intuitive for
Yes.
people, I think. Um, yeah, but that's it. That's all I have. I'm gonna stop now because it is at 54 minutes. Are we doing a Poddex question?
I think we should.
I think we
Christina, are
should.
you familiar with the Podex question of the day?
I have, but I don't remember. I
Okay.
have heard them.
So I have a deck of cards. I need you to pick a number
Okay.
from 1 to 5.
3.
Everybody picks 3. 1,
It's
2,
in the
3.
middle.
Yeah, that's very true. You should
Oh no.
expand that 1 through 10.
What's one bad habit you're trying to get rid of?
I think being terrible at time management. I want to track things better, but it's hard.
Well, that's a good answer, actually. It is hard, but I think it's so critical, especially as you get busier and maybe
Yes.
do,
Oh my God.
just
Yeah.
yeah, as you're learning, as you're expanding, as you're bringing in more clients or more complicated work, different work,
So
then
important.
it is so critical. Which I probably need to work on that. Well, I have been working on that, but for me, I think it would be slowing down,
Ooh.
right? Because I am like a chihuahua. That's what I've decided. I am a
cat
chihuahua with cat ears because I get so excited and so amped up that I need to bring it down. I just like I need to calm my inner toddler who just thinks everything is hilarious and exciting.
Nice.
So I've really been trying to like rein it in. And it's really had an impact. I mean, I've been really working hard on it, and I really am planning more and being more intentional and being more aware. So that's
Okay.
it's not easy. Okay.
I suppose I have to answer now too, don't I?
Yeah.
Not sure I want to do this. So I actually have, I'm going to share 2 bad habits that I think I could probably do without. One is mindless snacking, especially in the middle of the day when I'm maybe using my brain but not the rest of my body a lot for work. And the other one is being a jerk if I start to get stressed. I think that would be a good habit that I could get rid of.
Yeah, I could probably. My
Patrick
son tells me.
says his is staying up too late just because he can, which I feel like is kind of a dig for those of us who have to get up in the morning. So Patrick, you're on my list of favorite people.
Wait, I'm gonna go to Patrick's house, hang out with him, and hide. So and sleep in with him. So and when have tea parties. So Patrick, I will be there eventually.
So yeah, I think we've run that one into the ground. What do you think, Carrie?
Yeah, no, I think that was a bad joke that
Awesome.
didn't land. Like it sounded better in my head.
It
Which is
sounded
why I
great.
need to slow down.
So, as we've talked about, we're doing a series on first clients. If somebody's listening to this and they think, "Hey, I think I'd like to share the story of my first client," Carrie, what would they do?
Oh, they would go to podcasteditorsmastermind.com and click on Be a Guest. Fill out your little form and send it in. And then one of us will contact you. And we welcome everybody. Doesn't matter where you are in your career. If you just started a month ago, I mean, yeah, I think that would be
I think that'd be great.
I know, I'd love to talk to you. And if you've been doing this for, I don't know, 15 years, that's great too.
Yeah.
You can also email us at yeah at podcast editor. No, that's not
No,
right.
Take
that out,
podcasteditorsmastermind.com. We probably should have gone with info.
We could have also done and so.
Yeah.
But that kind of sounds like info. Yeah, we email at us at at podcasteditorsmastermind.com or just send us a Facebook DM, post a comment. I mean, like there are 20 million ways to get in touch with us, either as a group or individually. So yeah, do that.
Yeah. We were thinking about turning people away if they didn't ask the right way, and I was shot down. So we're just going to let you tell us that you're interested because we would love to have you on the show.
Because Brian's a jerk when he's stressed.
He's working on it.
And on that note, I think it's probably time to go around. So I'll go first, and Cristina, you can go last. Just tell people where they can find you. I'm Brian Itzminger. You can find me at toptieraudio.com. And currently, Facebook is probably the only social place I hang out because The other ones annoy me. So there you go. Carrie.
Oh, I hear that. I am Carrie Caulfield. You can find me at carrie.land, or you can connect with me on Instagram at the Carrie Caulfield.
And I'm Christina. You can find me at Twitter at I_am_Christina. No, sorry, Christy. Wow, I messed up my own handle. And I also can't remember my website because again, I have not fixed the last part. So I think it's Lumague Media dot. Oh, it's right there. Yeah,
Oh, but
card.co.
is it two R's in card?
Yeah, it is. That's
Okay.
how card. Yeah, that's how card is
I thought I
the
typed it
website.
wrong.
No,
Oh.
that is right. Yeah, that's very hard to remember. So I need to fix it because eventually it's just going to be lumagemedia.com, but I have not bought
It's
the
fine. You know,
what's that
nobody's
called?
nobody's
Domain.
typing. Don't like. When was the last time you typed a whole web address in
Never.
your
I'd
search
copy and
bar?
paste. So
Right. Or you just type the first few things, and because everything is now in a bubble, you know, you're most likely to get, like, if you're a podcast editor and you want to check out Christina's stuff, just type in her name. You'll get her because she's a podcast editor too. Or click the link in the show notes.
That's what I was gonna do.
I'm like over explaining.
Yeah. I was thinking, of all the links I have to add to these show notes, because we started talking about tools, this one I got nailed down. I can get her website address in there. We got that one. And I guess with that, our train wreck is over. What do you think? All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I hope you come back because we'd love to see you again if we haven't scared you off. Bye.
I'm sure you're glad to have me
Bye.
back. Bye.